fellow Americans.
Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the President. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
A functioning democracy? Well, let's have a look at it. It costs $2 billion to become president. They're 25% of the total prisoners in the world. They spend over $800 billion a year on arms, which is more than most of the world put together. They've been at war for 250 years since their state was formed 275 years ago. But they can't afford universal health care. They can't afford the 1.7 trillion debt forgiveness for students. They can't afford a programme for the 17 million children that go to bed hungry. Is this a functioning democracy? What's your idea of a democracy?
This is a bit of an aside, but in terms of how you think about problem sets, when I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like we had entire training courses.
it would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau. Then again, a Prime Minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this House at all. Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace for any democracy. Please spare us your presence. Thank you.
become involved when disinformation poses a threat to the security of our country. It is when there's a connectivity to a threat to our country. It could be a threat, a connectivity to violence. And what this working group does, is precisely what I would think you would want it to do, which is to take a look at the work, the disinformation work that our department has done and ask the following questions. Do we have policies? Do we have guardrails? Do we have standards?
But here's the problem.
Ensure,
We can't even agree. We can't even agree what disinformation is. You can't even agree that it was disinformation, that the Russians fed information to the Steele dossier. If you can't agree to that, how are we ever going to come to an agreement on what is disinformation so you can police it on social media?
Senator, I have 2 points, if I may finish. Number one, that what this office, what this working group does, because it's not an office, what this working group does is ensure that there are guardrails, definitions, standards to make sure that the free speech rights, the civil rights, civil liberties, and privacy rights of individuals.
So do you think COVID disinformation threatens our national security?
And number two, if I may, Senator, and number two, is it your proposition that when the cartels spread disinformation with respect to our immigration policies to try to lure vulnerable migrants to our border illegally?
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Are you familiar with McNamara, the Pentagon Papers? Are you familiar with George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Are you familiar with Iran-Contra? I mean, think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you to guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech. You think we can't determine, speech by traffickers is disinformation? You think the American people are so stupid they need you to tell them what the truth is? You can't even admit what the truth is with the Steele dossier. I don't trust government to figure out what the truth is. Government is largely disseminating disinformation.
Rationality belongs to the cool observers, but because of the stupidity of the average man, he follows not reason but faith, and the naive faith of the proletarian requires necessary illusion and emotionally potent oversimplifications, which have to be provided by myth-makers to keep the ordinary person on the right course.
Radical colleagues, but the answer to war is not more war, it's peace. And peace isn't delivered by the barrel of a gun, it's delivered by diplomacy, by dialogue. You can wish away your continent's history, but we share a continent with Russia. We will sit down with Russia. There will be a negotiated peace, and this organisation should be promoting it earlier rather than delaying it and making sure that more Ukrainians die. Your feigning of sympathy rings hollow. It makes me sick, to be honest with you.
We had a good discussion on ensuring global energy security and adequate oil supplies to support global economic growth. And that will begin shortly. I'm doing all I can to increase the supply for the United States of America, which I expect to happen. The Saudis share that urgency, and based on our discussions today, I expect we'll see further steps in the coming weeks.
Are you worried about
Well, one of the four principal functions of the CIA is to gather intelligence and ideally forward it to the president, the users of information, the policymakers, as they say. There are other functions, however, some of them more legitimate than others. One is to run secret wars, the covert action that's written and talked about so much, like what's happening in Nicaragua today from Honduras. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds. And this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories. For example, in my war, the Angola war that I helped to manage, 1/3 of my staff was propaganda. Ironically, it's called covert action inside the CIA. Outside, that means the violent part. I had propagandists all over the world, principally in London, Kinshasa, and Zambia. We would take stories which we would write and put them in the Zambia Time, and then pull them out and send them to a journalist on our payroll in Europe. But his cover story, you see, would be that he'd gotten them from his stringer in Lusaka, who had gotten them from the Zambia Time. We had the complicity of the government of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, if you will, to put these false stories into his newspapers. But after that point, the journalists, Reuters and AFP, the management was not witting of it. Now, our contact man in Europe was, and we pumped just dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities, Cuban rapists. In one case, we had the Cuban rapists caught and tried by the Ovimbundu maidens who had been their victims, and then we ran photographs that made almost every newspaper in the country of the Cubans being executed by the Ovimbundu women who supposedly had been their victims.
These were fake photos?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't know of one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, raw, false propaganda to create an illusion of communists, eating babies for breakfast and that sort of totally false propaganda.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Welcome, everybody, to Redacted on this Wednesday. So glad to have all of you here. I'm Clayton Morris. That seat is empty over there because Natali is not here tonight. She is back, not feeling well, and confirmed, I think, double ear infection. So she had to go to the hospital today, the walk-in clinic. So she is out of commission. She tried to do the show last night, and she is not feeling well tonight. So it's a guys show on this broadcast. I want to make a mention of something because a lot of you in our comments were just saying just a few moments ago that YouTube seems to be really screwing with our feed lately. Now we've got everyone watching. We've got a lot of people over on Rumble right now watching us as well, but appears that YouTube has been really screwing with our feed lately. People have been talking about, they've been watching our videos and suddenly it'll kick them off of watching the video and it'll just delete them from their watch history. Philip, you were saying your brother experienced that. Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy. And so one of the best things I think that you can do right now, I should mention this, I've forgotten to mention this at the start of the show, is just to, when you actually smash that like button, it actually pushes us further out into the algorithm. So maybe we can futz with the algorithm a little bit. And another thing that you can do is also just share the show with a friend, someone that you think needs to see news that's not driven by billionaires and the mainstream media. So our goal on this show is to seek the truth wherever it takes us. So anyway, please do that if you would be so kind. But I've seen a couple of emails from people. I've seen a bunch of comments from people saying the same thing. They're watching our video and suddenly it just kicks them off the app. It won't allow them to use the video, and then it sends them to another video, which is just, here we are in the big tech tyranny. So anyway, we're going to talk about some big tech tyranny tonight on the show as we talk about Apple a little bit later in China. Of course, protesters trying to get the message out, trying to talk to other protesters to survive and get, and actually, try to organize, and Apple getting in the way of that. We'll tell you about all of that. We're also going to look at the latest in Ukraine at the top of the show, because we had just had an amazing admission earlier this afternoon, really a devastating admission from Ursula Von Der Leyen, the head of the EU, and really pointing out what we've all been saying here on this show for a while, but you've been, but when you say it, you're labeled a conspiracy theorist. So we've got the numbers, we've got the data, we've got the soundbite. We're going to hear from the European president, but we're also going to hear from the Russian side and their response to these numbers, and also why Ukraine looks like it's about to be wiped off the map completely if the West gets its way. So the West wanting to send additional long-range weapons to make strikes inside of Russia, into Moscow. That's what they're calling for. So we'll go through the latest on Ukraine. We're going to talk about China. We're also going to look at this rail strike. My gosh, this rail strike is crazy town. in the United States right now. President Biden likes to say that he's on the side of the workers, right? Want better hours, better pay, paid time off and sick leave. But not when it comes to certain groups. So we will unpack that story. We're also going to look at Pfizer in some hot water once again over the vaccine effectiveness, and apparently violating codes of conduct in the UK. We'll look at what the CEO of Pfizer has to say about it. Some crazy data coming out about vaccines today. So we've got a lot to talk about on this Wednesday edition. It's the last day of November, and tomorrow starts the best month of the year, in my opinion. We get the holiday. It's my birthday. And it's like the warm and fuzzy feeling of the holiday season. David's eating like tons of meat. Oh, hey, I started the carnivore diet. Mostly. I mostly started it, and I've already lost like 2 pounds, and I feel fantastic. I really do. Like, I feel like not foggy, not tired. I don't, like, after lunch, I don't feel like I got to take a nap. I feel like ready to go. Is that how you feel?
Well, sorry, we're still working on trying to get David audio. For some reason, his right before we went live, he can't hear us anymore. So now you're just stuck with me for the time being while we're working on it in the background. But I haven't done the carnivore diet, so I feel fine. I had tacos.
I saw a bunch of people commenting yesterday or a couple of days ago when we talked about it. A bunch of people said they started this 3 years ago on the carnivore diet, and their health is tremendously reversed. It's been fantastic. They were in such bad health. Now they're in the best health of their life. They'll never go back. So read up on it. YouTube doesn't want you to know about it. TED Talks don't want you to know about it. They banned Jordan Peterson's daughter, was it Michaela Peterson, from giving a speech on that subject, and they took her off, kicked her off, said, no, we're not going to do this TED Talk on this subject. So it's not with the globalists that want you to not eat meat and just want you to eat fake meat processed in a plant somewhere, or bugs. They don't want you knowing that this actually has tremendous health benefits. So, are you uncomfortable yet? We got a lot to be uncomfortable about on tonight's show. So with that, Redacted starts right now. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see all of you on this Wednesday. Kal-El says, I did the carnivore diet, lost 70 pounds in 2 months. It was weird because I could feel my body starving the fat off at certain moments, even when I felt full. That's amazing. Hey, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing what this does. And I've heard this from a lot of different people right now. So I know it's not in fashion with all of the talk about, plant-based and eat fake meat patties that are processed with 70 different chemicals in it. And the globalists don't want you to eat meat. So it's not in fashion. You can't find a lot of information on it right now. So welcome to the show. Good to see all of you. This is Redacted. Our goal on this show is to seek the truth wherever it takes us. And we follow the facts. And so sometimes that makes people uncomfortable. It certainly makes the Western media people who've been watching Western media, I don't know how many of you for the first time are joining us, have never watched this show before. Please raise your hand. Let us know in the chat. All you need to do is subscribe to be able to comment here on our YouTube channel. And on Rumble, just say hello if you're joining us for the first time. We don't have an agenda. Our only agenda on this show is pro-peace. That's it, pro-peace. And that's it. That's really our own agenda. And also, don't hurt children. That's another big part of our platform here. But we believe most of these politicians are pretty corrupt. So we don't have a dog in the hunt when it comes to political parties. Just so you know where we're coming from out of the gate. So welcome. We do have a daily newsletter that we publish every day. If you go to Redacted.inc, it's a free newsletter. And I don't mean to toot our own horn, but Natali, who's sick right now, she does the bulk of the writing. She's a great writer. And so what you do is you go to the website, Redacted.inc, not .com. And then you just put in your email. You'll receive a welcome email. You have to confirm it, though. We have a double opt-in process, so we make sure we don't get, spammers and stuff like that. And then you confirm it. You got to make sure it's in your inbox. And then tomorrow morning, over their cup of coffee, first thing in the morning, you'll get our newsletter, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. You can read it in about 5 to 10 minutes. We cover some of the big stories of the day. We try to make you laugh a little bit. We cover some of the markets, what's going on with gold prices, silver prices, the Dow, Bitcoin, etc. See right there in our markets section. And we also cover some of the big stories. So you'll be more informed first thing in the morning. So check it out, redacted.inc. We are working on David's audio, so hopefully he'll be up and running soon here.
Yep.
So it won't just be me.
We're working on it. That's why I'm trying to do that and not miss my camera cuts,
So, and it was fine. We were fine just right before the show, and then suddenly must have been too much meat. I don't know. Too much meat talk put his microphone out of commission. Yeah. So let me guys know where you guys are joining us from here before we get into the news today. I always love to see what part of the world everyone is. So I think we had a goal to find out who the furthest person away from, I don't know, like the New York East Coast area or Portugal or, So let us know where the furthest place you are. Maybe you're in Iceland. Do we have anybody watching us from Iceland tonight? Anybody watching us from Vietnam? Anybody watching us from China? No, Natali is not sick from a meat-only diet. She eats like a lot of carbs. So she'll eat every day for lunch. She ends up having like tortilla chips and like beans, and she makes like nachos every day. So she's not a meat-only person.
That's living.
It is. Like, she does it every day, but she's very healthy. She works out on a regular basis. And so, but yeah, she's prone to these ear infections every few years. So good to see you. Canada is in the house. Greece is here. Good to see you. Australia is in the house. Finland, Germany, Bulgaria, Wyoming. I love the state of Wyoming, and more. New Zealand, Scotland, Canada, Denmark, Cyprus. Wow, we got people all over the world. Good to see all of you. A lot of New Zealand folks here. Good to see you, to all of our Kiwi friends. It's been a few years since I've been to New Zealand. Beautiful. All right, let's get into today's top story, and I want to talk about what's going on in Ukraine. So NATO countries are starting to realize something, starting to wake up to something. They are about to lose their war in Ukraine against Russia. It is a NATO war, after all, unless they do something dramatic. Now, they have thrown out all of their weapons. They've thrown all of their weapons and ammunition into Ukraine, so much so that the U.S. is running out of ammunition and weapons, which the Washington Post reported and confirmed by the New York Times. Germany can't build tanks because they can't process the steel required to build them right now. And things don't stop now. Ukraine will be destroyed. It will cease to exist as a country. Now, we've been saying this since the start of the war. Of course, Noam Chomsky said it, and many experts we've had here on the show have said it, that there's only two ways this ends, right? Either there's a settlement, a peace settlement, or Ukraine no longer exists as a country. And it looks like they're going with the second option right now. The Biden administration, NATO leaders are going with the second option. So here is Colonel Douglas Macgregor, friend of the show. He's been on, of course, a number of times. Now, he did an interview yesterday, and I love this quote, and I wanted to feature what Colonel Macgregor said. He said, the fact that in his foreign policy, Biden's take no prisoners conduct of U.S. foreign policy means the outcome of the next phase of the Ukrainian war will destroy the Ukrainian state. So what does he mean by that? Well, we've got some staggering evidence that I'm going to show you in a minute about how the Ukraine military is destroyed and it's being run by contractors and NATO forces. Here's just some of the evidence. If you thought things were winding down, now that Republicans have taken control of the House of Representatives and they said, maybe we're not going to have this endless purse strings that are available to just keep putting us further into war. No, it's not happening. Not happening at all. Things are actually about to get much, much worse. So overnight, a massive drone strike, take a look at this, strike inside of Russia. This is inside of Russia, destroyed an oil depot. Again, inside of Russia, which has reservoirs of oil products that are right now on fire, and they're still trying to put this out. Rescue teams at the scene trying to put out this fire, according to the Telegraph. And here's just a graph from the Telegraph that I want to point out. So here's the headline. Drone strike in Russia border town sparks fire at oil depot. There was an unidentified bomb dropped from drones. So where are those drones coming from? Of course, they're coming from the United States. Supply of drones to Ukraine. And let's be clear, these drones are run by and guided by the United States. David's back.
Yes, I'm back. And I wanted to say, like, I'm shocked that the U.S. isn't there guarding the oil fields now, like guarding the oil so that it doesn't get out of hand.
So no,
like we did in everywhere else we go.
No, they'll go to Syria and they'll steal the oil. We'll go to Syria and steal the oil. We'll go to Haiti and steal your oil. We'll go to other places and steal your oil. But in Moscow, we'll bomb it and destroy it so that you can't send it to Germany. So like, see how this like circular logic works.
I think it's probably more that we want to safeguard their oil, and the best place to keep it is in the U.S. So we're just moving it from Syria, moving it from these places to the U.S. so we can watch over it a little closer.
Yeah, it's like if I'm walking along the street and a $5 bill falls out of my pocket, right? And then a person behind me picks it up and they don't know that I saw them pick it up and they start walking away. And I say, excuse me, you've got my $5 bill. And they're saying, oh, no. Well, I was just going to take it back to my house to keep it safe for you. Like, that's what's happening. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. You were just going to take it. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's what we're doing with their oil. That's what we do with the other natural resources. But in this case, we can't go in and exploit their oil. So we just blow it up. Now, this is happening not just in this town where this oil, it's happening all over the Belgorod area. It's happening in multiple cities along these border towns in Russia. And it's just a matter of time before all hell breaks loose. Now, you saw the muddy tracks, the muddy fields that we've been showing you over the past few days. So they're just sitting and waiting right now. But the Russian army has made major advances and has picked up a lot of territory and has repelled a number of NATO advances over the past 24 hours. But here's just one sentence out of this Telegraph piece that I wanted to highlight for you. It follows a pattern, these attacks, alleged attacks by Kiev, suggesting it has increased its capability of striking into Russian territory. Oh, into Russian territory, which was heretofore not something possible by them. So the longer range weapons are now arriving just in time to strike into Russia. And then today we heard from the EU leaders on what they want from Ukraine. They want Ukraine to be totally destroyed by launching long-range attacks inside of Russia towards Moscow, because that's what will happen. So here's the headline. EU country urges Ukraine to strike Russia. Now, this is Latvian Foreign Minister Edgars Rinkēvičs urging NATO to allow Ukraine to use its Western-supplied weaponry for strikes deep into Russian territory. Deep into Russian territory. The top diplomat made the remarks in an interview with Bloomberg. Said, in particular, the weapons should be used to attack sites used by Moscow to stage missile strikes against Ukraine's critical infrastructure. So we got to step this up. We really need to start striking inside of Russia using NATO weapons. Long-range heavy weapons. But there's no Ukrainian army really left to do this. So who's going to be directing those missile strikes? It's not Ukrainians. Are you out of your freaking mind? We're going to let Ukrainians use HIMARS, launching heavy weapons. We're going to let them direct drone strikes with our drones.
Well, and we already know that the United States doesn't really care about casualties the way Russia does, right? So it's like Russia has clearly said they're trying to minimize casualties. And I think this is taking advantage of that because they know he's probably not going to do any kind of retaliation measure that's going to have mass casualties, but we don't care. We'll just send whatever, wherever.
No, and of course, we don't care about Ukraine either. So, right. We're using it as a staging ground. And this is what Colonel McGregor is talking about. This is why Ukraine will be wiped off the map. And it by all accounts, already is. So let's have NATO attack Moscow. That sounds like a great idea. Morons. Have you lost your collective shit? I mean, really? And the answer is
every other
yes.
NATO country involved? Like, is every other NATO country on board with this? Because it doesn't make any sense. Ukraine is not part of NATO. So why is NATO involved if they're not part of it? Because
they've admitted they're a de facto partner. So, and now they're fast tracking. They really are trying to fast track this. This is the news of the day. They're really trying to fast track this NATO membership so that they will become technically part of NATO. And therefore, then we will have to all step in. What are they waiting
for the membership card to print? Like, what the hell takes so long?
Sometimes like when you go to Costco or Sam's Club and you got to get the card printed and it's like jammed. And,
and it's got to be mailed to you.
Can you come back another day? Like the little plastic card thing, the card reader thing's not working. Sorry, Vladimir, we couldn't do it. We couldn't get it printed out. Also, we have no electricity, so we couldn't print it here in Ukraine. So the answer is yes, they have lost their minds. And of course, Republicans are just as corrupt as Democrats. Make no mistake about it. That's why 100 million Americans do not vote in elections, because they recognize both parties are corrupt. And now that the House is under Republican control, we're ready to step up long-range heavy weapons into Ukraine. So these are the things that Biden said he would never do, but Republicans are now calling him on it. So we're playing the good cop, bad cop. We showed you this the other day, but it's worth repeating because these are the people who are going to be in charge of sending these heavy weapons, and it's already unfolding. Watch.
Joining me now are two congressmen who will have a key role in providing aid to Ukraine in the future, likely leading the national security committees when Republicans take control of the House in January. Congressman Michael McCaul of the Foreign Affairs Committee and Congressman Mike Turner of the Intelligence Committee. Thank you both for being here. And I want to pick up where Colonel Milburn left off. He believes that there should be longer range weapons sent to Ukraine. Would you approve of that?
100%. He's absolutely correct. I mean, my criticism of this administration was before the invasion, we wouldn't put weapons in. And since the invasion, we've slow walked this process. You know, first it was Stingers, then it was Javelins, then
Help people understand that. Those are missiles that don't go as far as the ones you think would solve the problem.
So what the problem right now is the Iranian drones are going into Crimea, and the Ukrainians can't hit those Iranian drones unless they have the longer range artillery called the ATACMS. For some reason, I was with Secretary Austin at the Halifax National Security Forum. For some reason, they will not put those weapons into Ukraine. When we give them what they need, they win. And this could be not, it doesn't have to be
does it further incite Russia if they do?
Well, Crimea is not part of Russia under international law. So if it can hit into Crimea, I think that's fair game. And I think the problem is they don't want to be provocative, and we give them what they need. They win. If we don't, it's going to be a long, protracted war.
And Congressman Turner, you were recently in Ukraine about a month ago. I know you've suggested that Republicans will make matters difficult for the White House to pass more Ukrainian aid. Will you make it more difficult? And how do you view this?
No, it's not an issue of difficulty. It's an issue actually just of accountability. Martha, first of all, thank you for going to Ukraine. I mean, that your piece shows what Putin said, the opposite of what Putin said, which is they are a country. They do have spirit, and they are winning. I went to Ukraine in a bipartisan.
Oh, they're winning. Thank you, Martha, for going to Kiev. Thank you for really going to the front lines.
Thank you for that fabulous piece of propaganda.
Oh, my God. It's such garbage. I mean, this is the kind of stuff people are fed. You wake up on a Sunday morning and you watch these two clowns. You watch Mike McCaul and Jim Turner. Mike McCaul, whose head looks like it should be at a Macy's Thanksgiving Day float. Coming down the street now, next to Garfield, the cat is Mike McCaul, head of the Armed Services Committee, full of hot air, flying down Fifth Avenue in New York City. I mean, this is, unbelievable to listen to these guys. So it's Biden's fault, the slow walking of these weapons. So we've been slow about it. And when we send them heavy weapons, they win. Okay, you've lost 20% of your country. And we're literally stuck in mud. How are you winning exactly? Please explain that to me. You have no electricity. Most of your wealthy, almost all of your wealthy class and upper middle class citizenry have all fled, all left, and they're not going back. We'll show you that in a minute. So you need more evidence that Ukraine is almost gone. Let's get it right from the Ursula's mouth. I think the Ursula isn't the Ursula a famous wasn't Ursula in Little Mermaid?
It was Little Mermaid, yeah.
Like the evil with the tentacles,
the octopus.
Yep.
So this is Ursula Von Der Leyen's mouth speaking and words coming out of it, and she sent out this tweet and video earlier today. So let me go through this sort of category here and give you the context here. So this was the tweet heard around the world earlier today. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes. We will work with the ICC, International Criminal Court, by the way, that the United States is not a part of, right? And help set up specialized courts to try Russia's crimes. With our partners, we will make sure that Russia pays for the devastation it caused with the frozen funds of oligarchs and assets of its central bank. Okay, so now that was the tweet. Notice there was a video linked in there, right? In that video, So let's just play you the video. Now, I want you to watch this very closely to see if you notice anything at all. David, you're not allowed to talk on this because I know you already saw this.
All right.
Philip, you too. Well, Phil, I don't know if you saw this or not. But anyway, anyone in the chat, let me know if you notice something odd about this video. I'll play it a couple of times here. So here, go ahead and roll it. It's towards the beginning. Watch.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes, including for its crime of aggression against a sovereign state.
All right, did you see that? Did you see it? Did you see anybody catch that? Anybody catch that? All right, let's roll it again, see if anyone pays attention. Very, very close. And I know if you're driving right now or you're listening to the show, I apologize. It's a visual thing that you need to see. So for that, I apologize to all of our cab driver listeners and truckers out there. But go ahead and roll it again.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes.
You guys got it. I see a bunch of
including for its crime.
I don't know why does that do that? A bunch of people, I see it in Rumble. A lot of people say edit. Mansuret edit says, yep, it's a cut. Hookheart says it's cut. It's cut. It's cut. A lot of people saying it's cut. Bucha, or people are saying Bucha. Well, yeah, that's equally as, right? We all know the truth there, right? So yes, but other parts of it. So there was a cut. There was a quick edit. Why was that edit there? So if you didn't catch it, we're going to show you now what was edited out. That was a real question. Like, why was there this edit? Why did they then also delete the tweet? So that tweet then was deleted. Okay. Then they edited the video, and then they also scrubbed the transcript. They redacted the transcript, the name of our show. They redacted the transcript so you couldn't see what was said. Luckily, someone managed to grab it. I love the internet. And here we go. So here was the original video. Watch this.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. It is estimated that more than 20,000 civilians and more than 100,000 Ukrainian military officers have been killed so far. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes.
Whoa. Interesting. Interesting that we decided to take that out of it. 100,000. The Ukrainian army destroyed. An admission by Ursula Von Der Leyen. And now we've had separate confirmations in the 80 to over 100,000 range. And that was in September that those numbers were out. Killed, not casualties, killed. So this afternoon, the EU came out with like a bit of a, her press office came out with like, well, no, it was out of context. First of all, the 20,000 civilians killed is also garbage. And we know that that's totally false information, total propaganda. In addition to which, the piece of 100,000 is also propaganda. That is casualties. So no, we conflated the numbers. We said it was casualties and dead, and we didn't mean it. It was a wrong number. We got it from a third-party source, so we just, no, sorry. Right. Sure. So here it is side by side. Someone did a mashup here, and this is pretty funny. To watch this side by side, you can see the two videos where the cut happens. Watch this.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. It is estimated that more than 20,000 civilians and more than 100,000 Ukrainian military officers have been killed so far. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes.
And so it's estimated that there are over 300,000 casualties, 100,000 dead at least, an army gone by all accounts. And so who are the mercenaries and contractors and people directing these attacks, the people that have poured over the border from other countries and are being paid by EU and US tax dollars to continue this fight? I'd love to know. Well, we've seen them coming from ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all sorts of countries pouring in and being paid to move in there. If you need more evidence that Ukraine is a failed state, look at the wealthy class in Ukraine. So remember how any fighting age man in Ukraine, like if you're of a fighting age, you were not allowed to leave, right? You'd be stopped at the border. You'd be stopped at the border and you'd have to go to the front lines and fight and die, because that's what's going to happen in this. Nothing good is going to come of this. Of course, but if you've got money, then you could flee. So if you've got money from all of the billions of dollars that the United States and the EU have been pouring into Ukraine over the years, into the most corrupt government in Europe, they are totally enriched with all of this money. And they were able to flee. So in the summer and early fall of 2022, Ukrainska Pravda, I don't know if I'm saying this wrong or not, it's a Ukrainian newspaper, so good for them. They've done an investigation. And they prepared several investigative documentaries. So Ukrainska Pravda, the newspaper in Ukraine, where they did they were getting tips about all sorts of Ukrainian wealthy who fled the country, got on private jets that were allowed to leave. Oh, they were allowed to leave because they've got money. And so the newspaper, the Ukrainian newspaper, tracked these oligarchs down, these fat cats. And they've called them now, I love this name, they're calling them the Monaco Battalion, because they've all basically moved to Monaco on their yachts or bought yachts, living on yachts, bought houses, living along the Côte d'Azur. For instance, businessman Konstantin Shivago, who's included in Interpol's wanted list, relaxing on his private yacht that's worth $70 million.
Wait, did I not just see the Batmobile?
Yes. Yeah, they've got so much money they can drive a Batmobile. Like they have the I don't even know what year Batmobile. I think that's
the Michael Keaton, the 80s.
I don't know if that's what it looked like. The fins looked really high, so I thought it might have been like the cheesy George Clooney film, Batman. But nevertheless, like all of this is like hidden camera footage of them capturing these oligarchs, like flying to their yachts in Monaco, and they call them the Monaco Battalion, meaning like these guys should be back in Ukraine. You have all of this, you guys should be fighting. Like you guys should be fighting, right? But no, you fled the Monaco Battalion there it is, the Monaco Battalion. It's great. It's like 30 minutes of this, like of watching them tracking down these oligarchs. So good for them for doing this investigative journalism. And one of the guys, in fact, promised to sell his yacht and transfer the funds towards the restoration of Kharkov. He's going to sell his yacht. And they caught him not selling the yacht, but laying on it with some beautiful women. So, and we just got a super chat here from Cal-El. Russia bombed supply lines to 100,000 German troops invading the Caucasus oil fields during World War II, effectively changing the tide of the war. Just to put that in perspective, 100,000 dead in Ukraine. Yeah. So good perspective there, right? And of course, that number, Kal-El, that you're pointing out, like we've been told exact opposite numbers by Zelensky, right? We've been told it's much lower. I think the number they gave us was 9,000 from Zelensky's side. And so who called her up and was like, hey, get this off. You got to delete this tweet immediately. Apparently, according to reports, Kiev called and was upset about it. That makes it look like we're losing this war. You've got to remove that. Did Washington call? You got to scrap that transcript. You got to scuttle that. That's not good. That's really not good. You got to get rid of this. You got to continue to lie and tell everyone that Ukraine's winning the war and that our weapons are helping. Unbelievable. And the liars continue. The lies continue.
And New Joe said, another super chat said, truth, 14,000 dead pre-SMO.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. So just wait. I mean, again, let me circle back to Colonel McGregor's point. Does anyone think that this ends with some sort of Ukrainian victory here? No. If this continues and these attacks inside of Russia continue, they will be officially destroyed as a nation state. And there's warnings today of Poland taking the western side of the country, which we are also predicting. From both sides, removed, crushed, and then you have a landlocked middle section, which is not a nation state at all, destroyed. And it didn't have to be this way. In fact, Putin came out over the weekend and in an interview he was talking. It was really interesting. He said, I made a mistake. which when do you hear politicians say that? But he said, I made a mistake on the Minsk agreements, and I shouldn't have signed them. And we didn't know how then at the point the people of the Donbass, whether they were going to lean pro-Russian or where they would be. So we went with the Minsk agreements, thinking that would, give them time or however that, and they would be safe. And it didn't end up that way. Instead, they were needlessly attacked for the next 8 years and shelled, and a genocide, of course. So that's the very latest on Ukraine. We have got... I'm sorry, Natalie's just texting something. Many thanks to those who pointed out the inaccuracy regarding the figures. Dana Spinat. Oh, so now, yes, the tweet from the EU spokesperson saying that she thanks people for the inaccuracy. So she's admitting it. Many thanks to those who pointed out the inaccuracy regarding the figures in a previous version of this video. The estimation used from external sources should have referred to the casualties, i.e. both killed and injured, and it was meant to show Russia's brutality. Oh, okay. Right. Thanks for clearing that up, you liars. Oh, you guys. All right, let's talk about China. Now, we've had some good news for the people of China, which we will get to in a minute. But first, the United States sent a guided missile cruiser to the South China Sea to start to provoke China once again. They're like, hey, you guys are having some protests? Here's some of our warships in your backyard, because we can't leave well enough alone. China says the U.S. is in Chinese waters, and what they did was illegal. The U.S. Navy says this is what they called a freedom of navigation exercise. I'm just thinking, I break into your house, I'm in your backyard, and what are you doing in my backyard, buddy? What are you doing in my backyard? Oh, I'm doing what's called a freedom of navigation exercise. I'm just out here. I'm doing some Pilates in your backyard. It's my freedom of navigation exercise.
Just seeing if I could make it through your backyard. That's all.
Yes, just seeing.
No,
Don't shoot me.
Making sure I could.
I got through here.
Haven't you ever seen Ferris Bueller?
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly. That's actually what I was thinking. Like, run. Oh yeah, boom, like trying to run through. So this is the Navy press release. No shit, this is exactly what the Navy conducts freedom of navigation operation as DoD releases China military report. So yeah, we're there testing the waters, seeing if we have freedom of navigation to ride up in your ass, in your backyard. Just imagine for a second if China did the same thing in the Gulf of Mexico and called it the freedom of navigation exercise. Can you imagine what we would do?
That's a definite provocation to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if somebody flew bombers over, Kansas City, going, "No, we just wanted to see if our bombers had the range to reach Kansas City." Don't mind us. We just wanted to make sure.
We wanted to take in a Chiefs game. We're here and we wanted to see what the arch looked like in St. Louis. We're just doing a freedom of navigation. So meanwhile, the U.S. is continuing to provoke the bear. So there's that. Meanwhile, there's a lot of propaganda, though, floating around on social media and Western news outlets about China. Now, someone I saw earlier leave a comment watching a video from a night or so ago saying, I started to watch your show and it seemed like you might have been apologizing for the Chinese Communist Party. And I want to be very clear. No. We go where the facts take us. So we're not pushing propaganda on you at all. We're going to show you what we know, and we're going to also dispel some of the myths and propaganda that's being foisted on you. So just hang on here, because we've got some dense stuff to cover here, some really interesting pieces on all of this. And we have no agenda in this. If Xi Jinping opens fire and starts mowing down people with a machine gun, we are going to cover it. We're not going to cover it up like other people will. So there is a lot of propaganda floating around on social media, China, about what is happening in China. So we want to focus on the facts as we know them today. So last night, Western media was all abuzz. I'm sure you probably saw this all over maybe social media, people talking about this. These tanks, rolling through China. Now, Chinese tanks rolling through Suzhou City on Tuesday morning. Now, I hope for our Chinese viewers, you might be able to help me pronounce this. It's Xuzhou. I've tried to find pronunciations all day and had difficulty. My brain doesn't work that way. But in these were tanks. The same few tanks videos were being shared over and over again on different accounts, by different Twitter accounts, these tanks rolling through this town. And many of the media were calling this a crackdown by Xi Jinping. See, look what's happening. Look what's happening. In fact, so I'm just going to roll. This is another video of these tanks rolling through Suzhou City. Watch. And you notice these people parked there like they're waiting to go through the traffic lights there. If you can see there's like that red tape that's over them, and there's those guys holding the tape in front of them as well. So you can see like they're just waiting. Okay, we got this up in the intersection. We got the guys with the red tape. These guys are moving on. Okay, so what's going on here? So again, a lot of people are saying that this is another Tiananmen Square moment. Tanks equals Tiananmen Square, like in 1989, like this happened. Watch. Remember Tank Man? Now watch this video. This video you've never seen before, right? He's in front of the tank, and that's what most people see. But most people don't notice that the guy on the bike comes up, and these guys walk up, and he walks away, and he ends up not being crushed by a tank. Right. We don't ever see that. We only ever see the picture of him just in front of the tank. We don't ever see how it ends because Western media doesn't like to show you this part of it. Right. So anyway, a lot of people are like, this is going to be like Tiananmen Square all over again. While sources inside China are telling Redacted that a mobilization of the army to quell protesters is being exaggerated, and that they have seen no evidence that those tanks are being used to stop protests. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that they're not, but we've not seen any evidence of that. If there's video that emerges tonight of tanks rolling through protests, we'll show it tomorrow on the show. But so far, that's not the case. But it didn't stop the Western media of drawing that conclusion and jumping to conclusions, Matt, like an Office Space. So here is, like, for instance, here's the Sun newspaper. Take a look at this. Red terror. Tanks roll into China's streets in chilling echo of Tiananmen massacre as Xi cracks down on white paper protests. Okay, well then show me the video of that. Because the people that were just waiting to cross the traffic, like there was no protest there. These were people driving through the city, and they had to wait like a train while the train went by. Okay, then remove the red tape, and then you can continue on with your day. So that's what we saw. Again, if these tanks are rolling through protests, I haven't found it. And I looked all damn day and spoke to sources in China who said they don't see any evidence of this and that it's being exaggerated. That's what I know at this hour. Other sources in China are saying that those tanks are located near military bases and near a military base in the city of Suzhou. And they carry out military maneuvers around the city often, and it's not uncommon at all to see tanks going around the city. So we dug into that and looked more closely at the city, and you can see clearly where the military base sits in relation to the airport and the downtown. Look at that. There's two airports. It sits in between two airports and the main hub of the city. Okay. So, and other people are saying, well, they're clearly on their way to Shanghai. They're on their way to Shanghai to quell protests in Shanghai. Well, that makes zero sense, because it's about 700 kilometers from there to Shanghai. You're going to drive tanks 700 kilometers?
Yeah, no, they'd be bringing them in by train or something at that point.
That's a 6.5 hour drive the way I drive, which is fast. No way you're driving tanks with that amount of fuel and that amount of time, like 7 tanks you're going to drive to Shanghai. Again, show me the proof of it, and I'm gladly to share it here. But again, the locals are saying, no, this is not what people are making it out to be in the West. So there's that piece of it, and I think it's very, very important. In many ways, it would be like saying, like, okay, so we're in the town of Zhaozhou. So it's like saying, hey, look, Joe Biden is launching a military strike because someone has cameras next to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. Look at that. Look, they're loading something onto a plane. Biden is carrying out military strikes. Okay, well, Dover Air Force Base, there's a lot of active military that, you drive by there anytime in Delaware, and you're going to see Humvees. You're going to see all sorts of armored personnel carriers on a regular basis. I know because I used to drive by there all the time. So anyway, my point is that we haven't seen any evidence of these tanks that are being used for that reason, and that is what our sources are telling us from inside China. Now, if suddenly we have another Tiananmen Square moment where these tanks are mowing people down, we will cover the heck out of that story right here on the show. We'll be unafraid to do it. Now, the good news, though, from China, and we are hearing from sources in China that the city of Guangzhou, and by the way, was also trending tonight because of this. So that's confirmation of good news. A major city in China announcing the relaxation of pandemic controls and an opening up. And there is further signals that the government is listening to the protesters and releasing more controls across China. On that news, of course, the Hong Kong stock exchange boomed on that news in Guangzhou, which is good news. So again, the sources I've been talking to say that they see this as a really positive sign, that this is now going to spread to other larger cities as well, the opening up and the relaxation of these COVID lockdown rules. So it looks like protests have worked because the COVID numbers are still going up. So if the COVID numbers are going up, which has long been their reasoning for locking down, and now they're easing restrictions, to me, I can only draw one conclusion, which is the protests have worked. But the Western media doesn't want you to believe that or hear that part of the story. So we'll bring it to you and you do with it what you will. But if you see people sharing stuff on Facebook and Twitter and other places, just watch it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm asking you to do is just watch it with a grain of salt. So again, we also have seen a lot of videos of Chinese police officers arresting some of those. We've continued to see many videos as well of those white suited medical thugs attacking people, forcing PCR tests. I saw a particularly horrible video today of a woman being forcibly PCR tested in the rear end who didn't want to, but they did it. Woman screaming, looks like they're breaking her wrist. So we've seen videos of that. We've also seen videos over the past 24 hours of Chinese police officers arresting some of those white thugged medical guys in the white suits. Interesting. Again, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. So again, very fluid situation with a lot of propaganda floating around, and we're going to continue to report the facts as they come in. Like this. These are protesters on a bridge in the Liangmao-Kiao area of China, and the protesters honking in support and stopping the flow of traffic to protest the COVID restrictions. This happened. Watch. And so these people, they're honking in solidarity, blocking traffic, stopping the flow of traffic, right? And these people all on the bridge, and people are honking, saying yes, yes. And it's like obviously impeding the flow of traffic there throughout this whole area. I don't see any tanks rolling in there. They're just all honking in solidarity with the people holding the white papers, the white paper protests. So just to be clear, these people don't want government forcing them into lockdowns and government mandates. That's what they're saying. They don't want to be fined and have their businesses closed down for 30 days if they get a violation. I saw a video of one woman crying because she didn't have the proper paperwork for COVID and they shut her business down for 30 days. That's wages that she needs to live. Yes, awful. Draconian lockdowns in China. We've been covering that here on the show for over a year now. But Canada's Justin Trudeau agrees with these protesters in China. Watch.
Listen, Canadians are watching very closely. Obviously, everyone in China should be allowed to express themselves, should be allowed to share their perspectives, and indeed protest. We're going to continue to ensure that China knows we'll stand up for human rights. We'll stand with people who are expressing themselves. We also need to make sure that China and places around the world are respecting journalists and their ability to do their job. We'll continue to make that very clear.
What? What do my wondering eyes? What's the Christmas thing? What do their wondering eyes? What's the Christmas?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever heard?
Wandering Eyes Did See.
Yeah, whatever. It's from the Dr. Seuss or Night Before Christmas. I don't know. Have you ever heard a bigger pile of garbage in your entire life come out of someone's mouth? We care about the journalists. We certainly stand by with the people's right to protest.
I mean, if he hadn't done what he did in the past with Ottawa, like, you could get behind what he's saying, right? But the fact that he did the opposite to his own people makes it garbage.
Exactly. Oh, so the people of Ottawa who blocked traffic, who didn't want to be forcibly locked down and mandated to get an unproven vaccine, etc., didn't want their lives ruined, their livelihood taken away, their truckers' licenses taken, their right to their ability to do business taken away from them. Exactly what's happening in China. I just painted you a picture, right? A woman losing her ability to put food on her table, her business closed for 30 days because of draconian lockdowns. It's okay there. It's just not okay in Canada. I got it.
When he wasn't like trying to say that there were people there with Taiwan flags or anything, like trying to blame it on them or whatever. You know, it was like, just complete like.
Yeah, we support them. But meanwhile, the Biden White House, you heard John Kirby the other day basically was asked at the podium at the State Department saying, no, we're not going to speak for those people. President Biden's not going to speak for those people. Oh, really? So you're not going to support the protesters in China because you're up Xi Jinping's ass? That's why you won't support the protesters? Interesting, President Biden. Mark Hope in our chat says, can anyone see my comments? Mark Hope says, I need to know that my life is still happening. Mark, I see you. There is hope. We see you in our chat. We see you live tonight in our chat. We are live right now. And one thing that you can really do to help our channel is if you smash that like button right now. So we found out, I reported at the top of the show, if you're late to the show, we are live right now, that YouTube has been doing some nefarious things with our feed over the past few weeks. Not only did they ban us for a week for reporting the truth here on the channel, they've also been blocking videos. So if you've been watching one of our videos, you might notice that it stops and skips to a different video. And then you'll look at your search history or your viewing history and it won't be there. So it will not give you credit for having watched our show. And then it will not suggest other videos to you. So clearly they're doing something. So one way to help get around that, at least here on the live show, is to smash that like button, and it pushes us further out in the algorithm here while we're live. So hopefully other people will get to see the show. And if you subscribe to the show, that'll help us. But it's really nefarious. Maybe this is a good time for me to mention our Rumble channel. We love our folks over on Rumble. We have almost about 9 or 10,000 people watching us on Rumble right now. So hello to all of our Rumble fans over there. Love you guys. You guys are the best as well. And so Rumble is a censorship-free platform. They don't censor content. So even if you love using YouTube, great. Look, we've been thankful that they've given us this platform over the years. But they also block and ban us on a regular basis. And so we can reach so many people using that platform. However, the censorship is out of control. So you need to have a backup plan.
If you look at our viewership before the suspension, we're clearly being throttled as well.
Yeah, clearly. So they're like, oh, you were suspended. You're like in a timeout now for telling the truth about what was going on in Ukraine. We're not gonna promote you right now. So one way to kind of get around that is at least to make sure you have a Rumble account set up separately, please, just as a backup or as your primary. A lot of people in our Rumble chat say, I don't use YouTube anymore at all. I'm just using Rumble, and good for you. I've been gravitating more and more to everything I watch now, moving towards Rumble. But if you're on YouTube, please make sure you've got a backup account with us. So when they come throttling us, we have a place to go.
And also like it's good to keep in mind, sorry, for Rumble, that like they need to achieve critical mass. So the more that people just routinely go to YouTube rather than Rumble, like keeps that content from Rumble from like hitting those same levels. And so it's like the more people that go over there to subscribe, it starts to challenge YouTube, and then YouTube has a problem.
And last quarter, Rumble announced they're a public company, by the way. So these aren't fake numbers like we're hearing out of Ukraine. These are real numbers. And they had their highest number of new users coming to Rumble last quarter. So way to go, way to go, way to go. So we are on Rumble. Good to see everyone there. Someone says, Mizrak says, maybe Elon will buy YouTube as well. And someone's saying, Joe Michael saying we should broadcast on Twitter. Yeah, we used to broadcast on Twitter. And can we do that simultaneously with our server now? We can do that?
That is a plan that I do have to work on. Right now we're just like still getting it dialed in because we're streaming in 4K to YouTube and 1080 to Rumble. So I have to play with that and see if I can't add another stream to that. And right now the way that Periscope is set up, because it's still Periscope, I can't get the credentials like I can through Restream. So we would technically have to go back to Restream to do that. And I do not want to do that. So I'm working on it. So we will eventually, I promise. Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, well, we're hoping that Elon Musk will actually push Twitter to be another great video platform. It's a fantastic video platform already, but if they can make it so we can do like long form stuff there like this, great. I mean, we'll do it. We'll put, I've got, I think I got like 100,000 followers over on Twitter. So I use Twitter every day. So you can come follow me over on Twitter as well, Clayton Morris on Twitter. Please come over there. All right, we've got more news to get to here. I want to talk about this second part of this story. So meanwhile, speaking of China, something happened on November 10th that didn't get a lot of attention around China. It didn't get a lot of attention in the United States or the EU. Now, be honest with me. Raise your hand in the chat or just put up a hand emoji if you heard this story or were fully aware of it back on November 10th, okay? If you do, great, good on you. Then you're more advanced than a lot of other people. But somehow I missed this. Maybe it was the holidays coming up or something. I don't know. But so this story from our friend, my friend Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg earlier this month, he breaks a lot of Apple news. He's got a lot of insiders. And here's the headline. Here's his story at Bloomberg that I missed for some reason. Apple limits iPhone file sharing tool used for protests in China. Now, this was November 10th. Company puts 10-minute cap on receiving files in AirDrop. Change is made in China, but will eventually expand globally. How did I miss this story? So what does this mean? Now, it may seem small, might not seem like much, and it's just an iPhone story. So, well, look at this. This is the AirDrop feature. If any of you use an iPhone, you'll know that this is a powerful feature because you can basically share files like peer-to-peer right between people on their phones, and you don't have to use an app. You don't have to go to WhatsApp or Messages or anything else. You just can literally share it right there, phone to phone. So this is great for protesters. This is great for people who want to get information out to the public, right? To organize. I was thinking about this the other day. I was reading a book recently on Nazi-occupied France. And of course, the underground movement in France, in Paris, and all through the night, people would get together in speakeasies and small clubs, and they would organize, right? The underground movement to overthrow the Nazis. They would get together and hand out pamphlets and hand out information, and they hoped that they wouldn't get caught so they could organize and overthrow, right? And protest and push these guys out of their country. Sabotage bridges. That's what they were doing, right? They were sabotaging bridges. They were sabotaging railways and things like that. They would organize. So that's what they were using these for in China as well, to sabotage drones that were spying on their buildings. Handing out, and one of the things they were handing out is images and drawings of things that they could pick up at the local store, like different PVC pipe where they could create potato guns that would shoot a little lasso of a string out that would catch the drones and smash them to the ground. They were sharing these little pamphlets via AirDrop and organizing for protests. Yeah, to help the people of China against tyranny of lockdowns and surveillance. That's what the people were using this AirDrop feature for. AirDrop allows the quick exchange of files like images, documents, and videos between Apple devices. So you could share it with anyone in a general area, and people could have access to that and move. New China software version that Apple just rolled out. So Apple rolls out this new version in the beginning of November. Why? And it basically...
Now, do you think that that's something to be in compliance with Chinese law or something? Like, can China say, hey, you have to limit that feature or we're going to ban iPhones in China? Like, do they have that power?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if it's that specific, but clearly, and I'll get to that in a second, to me, that's exactly what happened. I mean, no doubt about it. Like, absolutely, the Chinese government came to Apple and said, we want you to limit this feature. because
Apple is not going to do something unless their bottom line is threatened, at least in my opinion, because when do they listen to their users? Am I right?
I mean, well, yeah, I guess. Well, so China is one of their largest growth markets, right? So they don't want to do anything that hinders that growth. They're also, focused on India as well, but China is one of their largest growth markets, so they don't want to hurt that bottom line. So here's the quote, the Bloomberg. Let me put this Bloomberg quote up here. After a 10-minute period expires, the system reverts to the mode where files can only be received from contacts. So that means, if you have like your mom and whatever in there, it'll just like skip back to your mom. But you have to keep going back if you want to receive this stuff from everyone. That means that individuals won't be able to get an airdrop transfer from a stranger without actively turning on the feature in the preceding few minutes. So how do you know? Like, someone's going to send me an important video or a place to meet up right now. I should turn it on right now. You're not going to know. So you're never going to get the information. You're going to be blocked from getting this information, important information about human rights and where you're going to meet your friends and all of this.
I mean, so to play devil's advocate here, I actually can see the benefit of this because there have been cases where you're sitting in an airport or in an airplane or even at a restaurant or something, and somebody will just mess with people and send these random files to you if you have it on everyone. So I could see some measure of that, but having it so that like, if let's say you wanted to use the feature and you were at a protest, you turn it on while you're there and then turn it off when you leave on your own. Not that it auto does it, because I can see that it is dangerous because people will put it in, mom will put it in everyone because she can't get it to send contacts only. And then she forgets she's going to be getting on a plane and somebody's going to send her some random picture, which is what has happened.
Well, why start it? I get that. And I've heard a few instances of that. Like people have been on a plane and people have like airdropped like some funny pictures, or nude pictures or something like that to some people on the airplane and like, what is this coming through on my phone? Okay. Is it an epidemic? No. But if you know that people are using it so that they can overcome draconian lockdowns and you're a supporter of human rights, you err on the side of human rights. And also, why do you set it so it's only 10 minutes? Why can't I choose as a user that I can always have it on? That is not an option any longer in China. If I want it always on, that should be my choice. Every other little fiddly knob inside of iOS allows me to customize every nook and cranny of that phone, except this one, because China asked you not to. So again, what kind of things might you share this airdrop feature for? Well, again, protest organizing, getting out information about how to stop those drones. Hey, there's a large police contingent coming down the street, hide the dogs. I don't know. So Apple does a ton of business in China. It's one of the biggest growth markets. Their Foxconn factory in China makes the iPhones. Without China, Apple wouldn't be the company that it is today, bottom line. So why did Apple make this change? Well, my friend John Gruber, writing at his really good blog, Daring Fireball, says, quote, "You don't have to be Kreskin to surmise that Apple made this change at the behest of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. There's no explanation for it being China only for now. Apple never explained why they dropped the Taiwanese flag from the emoji keyboard in China either. Also, the shameful aspect of the Taiwanese flag emoji issue is that Apple removed it from the keyboard for iOS users in ostensibly free Hong Kong as well. But Apple has long told us that it stands for the people, right? That's what Apple's always told us. And they stand for human rights. They stand for civil rights. After all, they sell a lot of woke watch bands on their website. You can stand with Black Lives Matter and buy this watch band for the Black Unity, or Black Unity. That's the watch band. They roll these out every year. Take a look at that. There's the Black Unity band you can buy. Yeah, that supports Black Unity.
$100 to be supportive. That's the 41 millimeter. How much is the 45?
I don't know. Yeah, $100. Yeah, for Black Unity. Or you can stand up with your Pride band. There you go. There's your Pride edition. Your LGBTQ plus band. Or you can buy a Product Red phone to support helping stop
Cancer.
AIDS. Was it AIDS or I forget?
Cancer.
It's cancer. I thought it was AIDS in Africa. Oh, okay. I thought it was Bono started Product Red. It was all about. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I now you're making me doubt myself. I thought it was cancer.
I thought he was the one I thought it was U2 and Bono, And there was even a special U2 edition of the iPod back in the day of Product Red to stop AIDS in Africa. But anyway,
Googling.
Yeah. So nevertheless, you can pick your cause, and Apple's got wants to help, right? They've got.
Okay. You're correct. It's every Apple Product Red purchase contributes to the global fund's fight against AIDS and COVID.
AIDS and COVID?
Yes. That's what it says.
now it's COVID.
Those commonly linked, like linked together viruses.
Yeah. Wait, I thought only conspiracy theorists link those two together.
So now it's COVID and AIDS. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you get a Product Red phone, you're supporting we want to stop COVID and AIDS. Why don't we add the flu on there? Stick the flu in there too, in the common cold.
No, that's getting crazy. Come on. Well, you can only link 2 unrelated viruses at the same time, not 3. That's scientifically impossible.
Product Blue will stop the common cold. All right, I'll get behind that. So they do a lot of virtue signaling about these causes that they support. In February, of course, they turned their website and Apple.com and their Apple TV experience. If you go to the Apple TV during that time, you'll see it's all Black Lives Matter, virtue signaling about civil rights and civil rights programming. So they care about civil rights and human rights. Just after Tim Cook took over for Steve Jobs, he told interviewers that enriching people's lives matters more than money made. He said how this is his core mission. Cook says lives enriched matters more than money made. But when it comes to the people of China, we don't support those people or those civil rights. We support the Chinese government instead because we have to respect the different laws of these different countries.
I wonder if they'd be willing to release their profit margins to prove that point.
How do you mean?
I mean, if you're going to, you're going to be a profitable, billions and billions of dollars profitable company, you're going to sell these watch bands for these things for $99. How much do those bands cost you? How much are you really,
we never find that out. We never find out.
No.
What is they actually sell a cleaning cloth. They sell, I think it's a $20 cleaning cloth. I pick these up at the hardware store to clean my glasses, and they're like, I get them like for $2. I get like a pack of 3.
For a bundle.
Yeah, these are fantastic. And they sell a $15 or $20 cleaning cloth. Do you have it?
No, that's not the Apple one.
Oh,
hell no.
God. Take out a loan.
Watch this. I can move it right to my phone, and do you see that?
Wow, it's amazing.
Watch.
You can airdrop it to your phone. That's amazing. So we don't support those people, says Apple. We respect the different laws of these different countries. My friend Andy Anatko, who's been a longtime tech journalist, and he says that this is where Apple always, this is the fine line that Apple has to, this like fence sitting. And he's long been critical of them for this fence sitting. It's like, oh, well, we care about human rights, but we have to respect their laws. They tell us to do these things, and it's either that or we have to leave. And we really want to be there because we think we enrich their lives with our products. So we're willing to just cut off all of these features because it's the local laws that ask us to do this. Here's Andrew Ross Sorkin from CNBC. He was asking, to his credit, he asked Tim Cook a very tough question of Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, about these human rights abuses. Listen.
You have been criticized for not speaking out on human rights issues, for example, in China and other countries as well. This is something I think a lot of companies that have been doing business in China struggle with. A number of companies, as you know, have abandoned China. How do you think about that?
I think that we have a responsibility as a business to do business in as many places as we can. Because I think business is this huge catalyst. I believe in what Tom Watson said, is world peace through world trade. You have to get your head around when you're operating outside the U.S. in any country in the world, that there are different laws. And so that's part of both the complexity and part of the beauty of the world is everybody has their own laws and customs.
Yeah. Right. It's the beauty. It's the beauty. So how we stand by those people with different customs.
Well, and if that's the beauty, then why is it going global? Because you saw that at the beginning of that ad. It says that they're going to launch it now in China and then globally.
Right. We're starting in this country. And I wonder if the feature will look different in other countries. Like, will I have the choice to keep it on?
Well, like you said, if I could, yeah, exactly. If I could choose the time, like limit it to 10, 20, 30, 60 minutes, unlimited.
You know that that's the way it's going to be. Or they probably will make that change later. They're going to roll it out so it looks the same as China, and then it'll be tweaked later on. Like they'll, we heard you want to have more flexibility, so we've increased it, just not in China. So on top of this is, Apple is in a fight with Elon Musk over whether they're going to remove the Twitter app from the App Store. And Apple just pulled all of their $48 million in advertising from Twitter. By the way, the largest advertiser on Twitter, Apple, just pulled all of their advertising. And as my friend John Gruber was pointing out, that there's a lot of other advertisers probably sitting back saying, wait a second, Apple just did that. Maybe we should also consider pulling our advertising from Twitter. Over what? Over their free speech? Putting back conservative voices who were blocked and banned for no reason? Targeted people who were censored? Going after child exploitation Twitter accounts and deleting them and banning them for promoting child exploitation? Apple has a problem with that? Google has a problem with that? Facebook, don't get me wrong. It's not just Apple, but all of these lefties right now are saying the same thing. It's unbelievable to read the tech commentary. My old tech friends, my tech journalist friends that I used to know, I can't believe some of their tweets over the past. I've been really shocked, actually.
Same.
I'm disappointed.
People that I've respected, and I'm just like, where are you coming from? I don't even understand where you're coming from. And one thing that I saw from an official Twitter account is that they've decided with the launch of Twitter Blue this Friday is when it's supposed to, or actually it might be today. But anyway, whatever day, I think it might be Friday, but anyway, whatever day it's launching, they said they're not going to sell it through the App Store now. You're going to have to buy it on the web version.
So they just confirmed that that's Apple's just confirmed that?
No, that's what Twitter confirmed. Twitter's you know what, forget Apple. You can upgrade to Twitter Blue, but you can only do it in the browser.
So they don't get a cut of that price.
Yeah, they're going to cut out the 30% tax. Now, whether or not, this is official Twitter, but so I don't know, because they were joking around with people too about the $8. So I'm not sure how true that is, or if that was just hey, Apple, this is what we're going to do if you don't comply.
Well, Governor Ron DeSantis, he slammed Apple over this. Watch.
Very concerning. And then when you also hear reports that Apple is threatening to remove Twitter from the App Store because Elon Musk is actually opening it up for free speech and is restoring a lot of accounts that were unfairly and illegitimately suspended for putting out accurate information about COVID. That's one of the main things that's being reinstated. So many things these experts were wrong at, and you had people on Twitter that were calling that out. And Twitter, the old regime in Twitter, their response was to try to just suffocate the dissent. And Elon Musk knows that's not a winning formula, and so he's providing free speech. And so if Apple responds to that, by nuking them from the App Store, I think that would be a huge mistake, and it would be a really raw exercise of monopolistic power that I think would merit a response from the United States Congress. And so don't be a vassal of the CCP on one hand and then use your corporate power in the United States on the other to suffocate Americans and try to suppress their right to express themselves.
A vassal of the CCP. Ouch. And then a host for censorship in the American people. It's unbelievable. And just to be, not that we're just crapping on Apple here on this point, because Apple has had a history of doing this in China. This isn't new, but this obviously, given these protests, is new and important. Just before you go thinking that Google is some sort of a saint in any of this, they're not. Neither is Twitter before Elon Musk took over. They are not. Neither is Facebook or any of them. They're all. So if you're thinking of I'm going to use a Huawei phone, well, China state-run phone, basically. I'm going to use a Google phone, an Android phone. Yeah, good luck. You basically have to build your own phone. If you want to actually, sort of rise above any of this, or just not use any phones at all. So Google is no better than this, as Vivek Ramaswamy explained in his great book, Woke Incorporated. Back a number of years ago, the Chinese government called on Google to censor search results about the Tiananmen Square uprising. So when you would do a search, you wouldn't find this tank man any longer, this photo, right? You couldn't do that. So if you Googled Tiananmen Square back then, they asked them, hey, we want you to remove this so that we'll only see beautiful pictures of Tiananmen Square as if nothing ever happened here, like these photos. Like, hey, there's nothing here. There's no tank man. Come on down to Tiananmen Square. It's beautiful. Google pretended to stand up against censorship then. So they're like, we're taking a stand. We're Google. Do no evil is our motto. So they pretended to actually stand up to censorship, and they got applauded for it, but they were liars. And they said they were done with China, we're leaving. Do you remember all that? I don't know if you guys remember that. It happened a number of years ago. And as Vivek writes in his book, he says that lip service to freedom of speech earned Google applause in the West. But the truth is, the company quickly sought to return to China by any means necessary. Unbeknownst to virtually all of the company's employees, a team of engineers were assigned to work on a search system codenamed Dragonfly that would require users to log in to perform searches, track their location, and share their data with the Chinese government that would have unilateral access to the data. Terms like human rights and student protest would be blacklisted. Being evil was back in style. It was only released because of an internal memo. So Google know better. Google complied. They did the country's bidding after it pretended they wouldn't, and they moved back to that type of censorship. So that's Apple. We'll see what happens with this and this whole Twitter thing. I'm just really stunned. I'm just really stunned at the response of this. I just can't get over the left's response to free speech. And now the government, the Biden administration, wanting to actively investigate Elon Musk over Twitter. Like, don't you have bigger fish to fry right now, like a railroad strike? Food shortages? People can't afford their medications or homes? We're going to investigate Twitter.
What's that thing? Like, it's like they're saying, like, we've done these little things. Like, we did this. We allow elderly people or veterans or whatever free access to national parks now. It's like, okay, that's awesome. That's great and all. But are there not bigger issues going on right now? And it's like they don't even talk about those.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy that this is what they're focused on. And so, you had John Pierre the other day at the White House press briefing saying, oh, yeah, this is a big concern. We're all watching this right now, what happens with Twitter. I'm glad our federal government is so concerned about what's going on with Twitter.
Well, and I don't know if Elon is actually there, but Elon just tweeted this and says, thanks, Tim Cook, for taking me around Apple HQ, beautiful HQ. And it looks like he's standing there.
Oh.
So he's like trolling for real, unless he's really going and talking to Tim Cook. That would be awesome, actually, if they communicated through this.
Maybe. I saw today that Tim Cook was flying to Washington because Republicans called on Tim Cook to come to Washington to answer for this Twitter thing. So I don't know if he's like, what happened? He's either flying there, meeting with Tim Cook, Elon Musk. I don't know, but it's fascinating. It's a fascinating discussion right now. We have got more news to get to. We're going to talk about this railroad strike in a minute. It's unbelievable. We're going to get to the bottom of that. We're also going to look at the new Pfizer data, and Pfizer is in trouble. I wanted to tell you the very latest on the vaccines and how they've been lying about a lot of stuff. But first, we do not want to go to the post office this time of the season. There is no way you want to go to the post office. And if you've got a small business right now, or you're trying to send stuff for the holidays, holiday chaos is just a mess. Right now, if you're thinking about all the seasonal excitement, I have got this present for my cousins who live in Hawaii or live in Florida, and I want to send this stuff. I do not want to go to the post office, and I want to get in traffic, and I don't want to deal with it. That's why Stamps.com is so great. You can sign up now. You'll be printing your own postage in minutes, and you get a really nice discount when you use our code right there on your screen. If you enter the code Redacted, you get 4-week free trial. Really, really great, really easy. Stamps.com is your one-stop shop for all of your shipping and mailing needs. For more than 20 years, Stamps.com has been indispensable to over 1 million businesses. You can get access to the United States Postal Service, UPS services that you need to run your business right from your computer. No lines, no traffic, no hassle. Even save money with major discounts on all. You get up to 86% off your shipping. So here's a question. Why wouldn't you use them? You save up to 86% off of your shipping. You don't have to go to the post office. They'll send you a free digital scale when you use our code, when you sign up. So you can print all of your boxes, the packing materials that you stick on the outside of the box right from home. box it up. They'll even come and pick it up from you at your house. Again, why would you even want to deal with it? So this holiday season, trade late nights for silent nights and get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code REDACTED for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage, a free digital scale, no long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the little microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code REDACTED. We'll also have a link in the description below that you can check out after the show if you'd like. Again, enter the code REDACTED, and you can check them out right now. So our thanks to Stamps for supporting the show. What a great company. They've been a sponsor of mine, I think, for almost like 8 years now. They've been so great. They've been really great. On my real estate podcast and everything. They've been great. And Adrian Valentino in Australia just sent a $10 Rumble chat. Says, always a pleasure watching your show. Let's go, Brandon. Thank you, Raymond Piper, for your super chat as well. £2. I appreciate it.
Yo, Adrian.
Yo, Adrian Valentino. It's a handsome avatar he's got there. Handsome suit avatar he's got on. All right. Let me just get a swig of water. You want to say anything? You want to say anything insightful? Oh, tell them about our community.
Yes. So community. We have a awesome community of, I think we're at as far as members, about 39,000. And we're pushing for 4,000 members by Clayton's birthday, which is December 31st. Tomorrow is December 1st. So that's 31 days from tomorrow. We want to be at 4,000 members. So you guys head over to Redacted.inc. And get signed up. We have all kinds of exclusive content. I've actually been doing these locals exclusives, which are stories that I cover only on locals. And then Clayton also posts stuff over there. And then we post redacted conversations over there, which are interviews that Clayton does with stuff that we generally can't post on YouTube. So you'll get extra content over there. And it's just $5 a month, which is basically it depends on where you get your coffee, but it's basically a Starbucks for one Starbucks, and you get 30 days, or you can pay $50 a year and get 2 months free. So go support. We appreciate it. Help support independent journalism.
Yes, thank you so much. And so that's what we are. We are independent journalists here, and we're looking to expand. So we've been doing some really interesting special reports lately here on the show. We had Dan Cohen that we were able to bring on here at Redacted to send him to Haiti. He did an amazing job for us covering what's unfolding with the U.S. invasion of Haiti. And that's actually ramping up over the past 24 hours. We're going to have a story on that tomorrow here on the show. So we're able to send Dan to Port-au-Prince to bring you those reports. So we hope you appreciate those. Check out our special report on Haiti that we just posted yesterday. Really interesting documentary about what's happening there.
And we've got some really cool documentaries that you're working on that are going to be really in-depth stories on things. And we're going to early release those to our members only on locals. So be sure to sign up for those. Those are going to be great.
Absolutely. So we're doing a lot more here. We're trying. We're a small mom and pop shop. So thank you for your support here. We're not
Mom,
CNN.
Pop, and two brothers.
Yeah, Mom and Pop and two brothers. We are not CNN. We are not the New York Times. We don't have billionaires backing us. We have you. So thank you so much for your support.
I guess I should say Mom, Pop, two brothers, and Grimm.
That's right.
Kind of what we should say.
It's like a sitcom. All right, let's talk about this rail strike. So a rail strike could happen in the United States, which would all but cripple the economy that is already crippled enough. What it would do to gasoline prices, food shortages, awful. So this issue at hand revolves around sick leave, okay? Railway workers do not want to deal. They don't want to put a deal on the table unless it includes paid sick leave. And that is left out of the deal that was negotiated back in September. Do you remember when the Biden administration kind of averted that rail strike back in September? And they're like, we got it averted. We're coming to the table. We got a deal. Well, okay. Sick leave, paid sick leave was a big piece of that. These guys work their asses off for Americans, right? They do the hard work so that you get gasoline, you get fuel, you get food. And often in the middle of the night, they're just called randomly to come into work. They can't take vacations, which brings an issue to the forefront. Did you know that the United States is the only developed nation without federally guaranteed sick leave? And when you think of jobs that one could really not go sick to, you might think doctors, surgeons, bus drivers, and of course, rail workers. Their work is incredibly dangerous. Do you want them with a double ear infection like Natali has right now, like running our rail infrastructure, like woozy on like NyQuil? No, you want them resting. You want them getting better to do their job effectively. Do you want your pilots sick? Here's a question. If you knew your pilot had the flu and was like really lightheaded and dizzy and didn't feel well, would you want that? Would you get on a plane with that pilot? No, you wouldn't. And the same thing goes with our rail infrastructure in the United States. If they feel sick, they shouldn't have to mess around with how they can take paid sick leave. But currently they do, and they've been fighting to change this for decades to no avail. Not just months or years, decades they've been looking for this. Now Congress has taken this into its own hands to stop unions from negotiating or striking anymore. Way to go, Congress. Can't strike, can't unionize, can't get that paid sick leave. So President Biden asked Congress to take this up, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi got right on it. Just moments ago, the House voted in favor of doing this. Here's the tweet from President Biden. I'm calling on Congress to pass legislation immediately to adopt the tentative agreement between railroad workers and operators. Let me be clear. He loves saying that. Let me be clear. So I wonder where John Pierre gets that from. A rail shutdown would devastate our economy. Without freight rail, many U.S. industries would shut down. As a proud pro-labor president, I'm reluctant to override the ratification procedures and views of those who voted against the agreement. But in this case, where the economic impact of a shutdown would hurt millions, I believe Congress must use its powers to adopt this deal. Oh. Pro-union president. I want to be the most pro-union president ever. Go ahead, Philip.
We need a word that describes when you're forced to go to work against your will. Like when you don't want to, like the conditions aren't right, you don't want to, and then you're forced to. We need a word for that, that kind of like when you have no choice but to go to work.
Yeah, I wonder if
I'm trying to think of. I'll write Webster's and see if they know anything.
Slavery?
Forced labor?
Slabbery? How about slabbery? No, that doesn't work.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll write to Webster and see if they have anything.
That's exactly what this is. Union leaders are upset because they are only using this tool they have available, the only tool they have available, which is striking. The government would, in essence, be stepping in to tell them that they have to take what is given and no longer advocate for themselves. There's precedence for this because in 1991, Congress passed a bill in the late of night under the darkness of Washington. And they had to wake up then President Bush to sign it at 1 a.m. Here is from the New York Times from April of 1991. Mr. Bush signed the bill at 1:39 a.m. after being awakened in the residential quarters of the White House, a spokesman said. The president was expected to issue a statement later today. Samuel Skinner, the transportation secretary, said Mr. Bush had asked that he be awakened to sign the measure, which would immediately send the strikers back to work. Mr. Skinner called the measure a resolution everyone can live with. The unions have said they would abide by the legislation. That ended a 19-hour strike where the workers again were asking for more flexible time off. So back in 1991 under George H.W. Bush, not even George W. Bush, it goes back that far. So why are that's hard to say. Why are rail workers threatening to strike? Well, take a look at this screen. Union representing tens of thousands of workers said they planned to strike if a labor agreement with the freight rail companies employing them wasn't reached. The workers are mostly concerned with their grueling, unpredictable schedules that make it difficult to attend medical visits or family events. Yeah, you want to go to a wedding? Screw you. You can't plan for that. Oh, you're going to be the best man in that person's wedding? Screw you. Because you literally might be on your way to the wedding and you get a call and you have to go in. You're forced to go in. Slavery. What was that in the proposal under the agreement? New contracts would include a 24% increase in wages over 5 years and a payout of $11,000 upon ratification. Workers would also receive an additional paid day off as well as the ability to attend medical appointments without penalty. Well, this only lasted about a year because another strike loomed in 1992. And Congress had to vote to intervene. Let's take a look at who voted for this. For Congress to intervene in that instance. Oh, who's that? The people that voted against it.
I recognize that name.
I recognize that nay on the list. Is that Biden down there? I can't see too good. Is that Bill? Is that Joe Biden over there on that list? My spectacles aren't working so good. Is that Biden on that list that voted no? And why did he do that? Well, this is what Biden said in 1992. I'll put on my 1992 voice, like I'm a PBS documentary. Mr. President, I will oppose this legislation. As I do so, I would like to make it clear my concern that Congress is once again being called upon to settle a rail strike, and in particular this one. For 4 long years, this dispute has remained unresolved. That is far too long for me to believe that labor and management could not reach an agreement. But the conditions under which those negotiations took place led our nation inexorably to the strike and lockout. For nearly 20 years, every working day I have traveled from Wilmington to Washington and back to Wilmington on the train. The vast majority of the American public has only become aware of the depth of the differences between rail labor and management in the last few days. I have witnessed a slow but relentless deterioration of those relations in recent years. It has been a painful development to see, particularly since it could have been avoided. And young Tad Lincoln slept in the White House as Abraham was shot.
Well, I think if you're going to do it a true 90s voice, you should have done it in like just a really crappy rap.
I was trying to do my Ken Burns documentary voice. Mr. President,
it was good.
I can't stand on this hallowed ground any longer and watch our nation be ripped apart. He did not believe that Congress should take this up and choose the winner and loser, but that is exactly what they're doing in this situation. Choosing who wins, namely the rail companies, and who loses, namely the workers, of course. So while Congress is drafting a bill that would end the strike, meaning you're done fighting, stop fighting, go back to work, Senator Bernie Sanders is proposing a separate bill that would guarantee rail workers a minimum of 7 sick days per year. You can see how he can easily get burned on this, right? Congress may just pass the one that ends the strike and leaves out the sick days. We don't know what's going to happen. Like his version, the Bernie version. And I love how Bernie is suddenly stepping up here. Like Bernie, every year and a half, he kind of stands up for something, and then he falls.
I'm going to put my neck out on the line because I think I can get you 6 more days.
So I'm going to do that. Got 6 more days here. Okay, we're gonna pass this. Where were you on all these other bills, Bernie? Where were you voting against the war in Ukraine? So Bernie Sanders spoke to Chris Hayes about this, his favorite, because now that Rachel Maddow's not on. And he did not mention the possibility that this might happen. He says he thinks there is a reasonable chance, but even he doesn't look too convinced. Watch Bernie.
Meanwhile, for workers on the railroads, they have underlined zero guaranteed sick leave. In other words, somebody comes down with COVID tomorrow. They're going to get penalized because they don't come into work. Somebody is having a baby, can't go to their wife's side. So what we are fighting for, and I think we stand a reasonable chance to succeed, is to take the agreement that the President and Labor Secretary negotiated and add 7 days of paid sick leave, guaranteed sick leave to that. And what I'm hearing is not only is that going to be taken up in the House tomorrow, I'm hearing that there's strong, or at least some, Republican support for it in the Senate.
The rail companies say that these workers do have paid sick leave, but it's parsed. They're not guaranteed pay, and they could be penalized in other ways, such as taking these days from other time off allotments. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, private sector workers receive 7 to 8 sick days per year per leave, but these guys, but not these guys, which deliver pretty much everything you need to live your life to your doors and to your stores. Here's a piece of video that works together that the rail workers put together to show why they voted against this deal in order to hold out for sick leave. Watch this.
I voted no on the contract because we deserve more.
It does not meet the requirements for quality of life that we need. We need time to sleep. We need time to rest. We need time to enjoy our lives. We don't have any of that now.
We're considered essential employees, and we don't have a single paid sick day to use when we're off. We've worked through the pandemic. We were considered essential, and now it seems like we're expendable.
If a person is sick, they shouldn't have to use all of their paid days that they had to earn the previous year before to take a day off.
We're constantly coming to work sick and exhausted.
We routinely work 14 hours and longer every day.
Can you imagine? A lot of this is made worse by the fact that the rail companies have reduced the workforce by nearly 30%, or 45% of employees in the last 6 years in favor of something called precision scheduled railroading. It means that they can send cars that are not full instead of long trains in order to keep products moving, and then they run more often. We already know that the House voted to approve both the end of the strike and the 7-day paid sick leave time requirement. The House has to do the same, and then the president has to sign it. If nothing is passed or agreed upon, then the strikes will begin on December 9th. They estimate that a rail strike could cost the economy $2 billion per day, because these are just a few of the things that would fall out and you wouldn't have them on the trains. Look at this. Retail product shortages. This would be the $2 billion. Lost jobs. Widespread plant shutdowns. I mean, think about all the people that rely on the rail infrastructure to get to their job. Higher costs for consumers and businesses. More trucks on the highway. More CO2 in the air. Disruptions to hundreds of thousands of daily commuter and Amtrak trips. So according to the Association of American Railroads, here's how much of what you eat actually comes from the rails. Farm products. If it's on your table or in your pantry, there's a good chance railroads helped get it there. Rail cars haul around 16 million carloads and intermodal units of wheat, corn, soybeans, agricultural products, plus another 1.5 million units of animal feed, beer, birdseed, canned produce, corn syrup, flour, French fries, frozen chicken, sugar, wine, countless other food products. 6,300 carloads daily of food from farm products, hundreds more intermodal containers and trailers. The average rail car of wheat is enough to make 260,000 loaves of bread. 36,000 chickens.
I wouldn't be bragging about the corn syrup and stuff like that.
No. Maybe leave that off your list.
Yeah.
Corn syrup. But maybe the Biden administration wants to avoid what happened during the largest rail strike in U.S. history, which was in 1922, which lasted months. 400,000 workers went on strike. So the workers brought in 300,000 strike breakers to fill the positions. Guarded by the National Guard and the United States Marshal Service, striking workers sabotaged trains, air hoses were cut, switches were misapplied, and car journals, part of the axle assembly, were sanded. The cut air hoses were dangerous because the hoses weren't cut all the way through, so they burst when the trains tried to brake. Before that, the largest rail strike in 1887, there was even a union present to represent these workers. And this is from Harper's Weekly illustration, because there was no photos back then of that rail strike at the time. So you can see the illustration here. The strike was also called the Great Upheaval. Over 100,000 workers participated for 52 days. And by the time it was over, 1,000 people had gone to jail. Some 100 had been killed. Workers burned down the train station, railroad bridges, and fought back by the National Guard. Both of these historic strikes followed economic depressions, by the way, when working people were at their limit. They were already at their limit, which is what we're in right now. You could draw a parallel to how people feel today and hope we don't get that far down the road, but they haven't fixed this. The point is, you have to, back to 1877, we're still dealing with this stuff. Help these people, for crying out loud. And and here's what bothers me enough. I'll just say this. When people want to say, no, these guys, we can't afford this right now. Oh yeah. So we can't account for $20 billion in Ukraine. We can't find $20 billion we just sent to Ukraine. We also have now sent arguably over $106 billion to a corrupt government in Europe. So we can't help these people. It's unbelievable. And the outrage is just, it's so quiet. You just don't hear anything about it. We hear from these railroad workers, and it's just awful. It breaks my heart to hear this stuff.
Well, I wonder because so let's play devil's advocate a bit, but let's say Congress votes and says, no, you have to go back to work. And the rail workers say, no, we're going on strike. Then is it the National Guard going to take over running the railways? As what are they going to do then? Because it's like Congress really doesn't have any teeth in this because they can't physically, they're not going to physically force people to go back. So they still have the ability to strike.
Yeah.
It's just would be illegal.
I don't know. I don't know what they would do. I mean, you can't have it like, is it going to be like the airline workers, and Ronald Reagan like calling their bluff as president and then like fires them all? He replaces them with his own. I mean, these are skilled workers. Like, how you can find these people that know how to do all of these jobs on the railways and take care of the infrastructure? It's not something you just learn overnight. Get some moron off the street that can figure this out, right? These are skilled laborers who understand this. They were deemed essential workers during the pandemic, and this is how we screw them over. I was talking to Natali. You guys see that video, that photo that went viral? I think we showed it here on the show a few weeks ago of that coal miner. He came to watch his son's basketball game. I think it was in West Virginia.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And the photo went viral. It was either Kentucky or West Virginia. And it went viral because he was covered in coal dust, and he was there in his overalls and stuff, and he had like dark dust around his eyes, and he was sitting there with his boy watching he went to his school to be at the basketball game right from work. And I think the reason that it touched so many people is because, these are the people that help, make this country run. They do the work so that you can live your life. And they're on the backbones of these people. And this is how we reward them. And yet we send billions of dollars to Ukraine. We can't help these people. It's absolutely disgusting. GCR in our chat says, thank you, Redacted, for covering the railway strike. I work for a Class 1 railroad as a conductor. I'm also an engineer. You have no idea how bad it has gotten since the implementation of PSR. I'm sorry. Well, thank you for what you do, and I hope that they fix this. These corrupt politicians. They spend half the time focused on this. We better off. All right, we've got more news to get to. I want to cover this story. So Pfizer was found to have violated a code of conduct by a UK regulator when they promoted the COVID vaccine for children. We're going to tell you about that in a minute. But first, the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services posted a tweet today. I wish I was making this up. This sounds like my son today said, hey, Daddy, have you ever thought of doing like an April Fool's Day joke, like not on April Fool's Day? This is what this tweet sounds like. This sounds like an April Fool's Day joke on November 30th. Here it is from the Secretary of Health and Human Services. It's been 2 months since your last COVID booster. Is it time to get another one? If it's been 2 months, you should get one. Here it is. Here's the tweet from Xavier Becerra from Health and Human Services. An updated COVID vaccine can help protect you from the worst outcomes of COVID. If it's been over 2 months since your last dose, make it a plan to get one now. Find updated vaccines at vaccines.gov.
2 months now, huh?
2 months. My God. How have you survived? Seriously, I mean, how are you even alive right now? One user pointed out on Twitter, can you name another vaccine that only lasts 2 months? To which some idiots said that infants are... Yes, I love this. There were a bunch of idiots that responded. Yeah, infants are given vaccines every 2 months. But those are different vaccines. Plus, you don't do it every 2 months for the rest of your life. Morons. Another YouTuber put together a nice montage of the headlines around the vaccine that serves as a this is your life during the last 3 years. Watch this. It's unbelievable. And notice the number that it starts with and where it ends. Watch.
need another shot. We've got to make sure we clarify that with people. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's effective. We know it's highly effective. Highly effective.
So,
well, I see where they get the phrase "the science changed" now.
Right. Over and over again. It was very fluid. That was happening every day. Now, those are just news headlines from the media, but they were based on things that Pfizer said. Speaking of what Pfizer said about that code violation, so an industry group in the UK called the Prescription Medicines Code of Practice Authority, the PMCPA, received a complaint from a group of parents, and they decided to look into this. They found that Pfizer's CEO, Albert Bourla, made comments that were misleading to the public and overly promotional, they said, when he went on the BBC last year to talk about the COVID vaccine for children. And he said, I think the bottom line is millions of lives were saved. In an interview with the BBC on December 2nd, 2021, Bourla said, there is no doubt in my mind that the benefits completely are in favor of vaccinating children ages 5 to 11 against COVID. He added that sorry, lost my note here. He added that COVID in schools is thriving. This is disturbing, he said, significantly. The educational system, and there are kids that will have severe symptoms. Bourla said this before the government had made this call about the risk-benefit of the vaccine. In fact, this interview was in December of 2021. 3 months before that, in September, the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunizations had advised against a mass rollout for children ages 12 to 15, saying the margin of benefit was considered too small and citing the low risk to healthy children from the virus. But when the government then voted to do it anyway, in order to keep schools open, which is on its own worth looking into. But let's stay focused on this story for a second. The PMCPA said that Pfizer breached the rules of the Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry in a number of ways, including by misleading the public, making unsubstantiated claims, and by failing to present information in a factual and balanced way. Those are the charges made in the complaint that the ABPI agreed with. Pfizer appealed the ruling and was successful in overturning 2 of the claims, which they considered more serious, which were that Pfizer had brought discredit to the industry, had encouraged irrational use of a medicine, and had failed to maintain high standards. Pfizer released a statement about this, saying that they were happy with the appeal and they were always trying their best to have such high standards. Right. The PMCPA usually publishes these findings and appeals, but this one is listed on the website, but for some reason it's incomplete. Why? Why was this one they left off the website? It's incomplete. Here it is. I don't know. Can't read the full report. Can't read it. I don't know why. It's redacted. Sorry. This is what GB News in Great Britain said about this when talking to the watchdog group that brought this complaint. Watch.
Now, bear in mind, this is parents. We're trying to give parents the right information, which is what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to say, look, this is the risk of your child dying of COVID or being seriously ill, and actually this is the risk of the vaccine. Pfizer failed to do that, and they've been told off for it. So this is absolutely massive. And now parents need to be told before those kids have any more vaccines.
Yeah. Why is this not being talked about more, Tanya Buxton, do you think? Because these are the sort of smoking gun moments that many of us have been looking for, as in the pursuit of transparency. We just want the facts. That's all we've ever wanted. Why is nobody, except largely GB News, talking about this?
But also the language that, we're accepting that it was misleading. It was an out-and-out damn right lie. You lied. I wonder why they lied. Oh, I wonder. I'm not allowed to say it out because Ofcom will tell me off.
Exactly. So good on them for covering the story. What they're saying is that Pfizer lied about the risk of COVID to children and lied about the risk of the vaccine. In fact, the things we once called people crazy about have all come to pass, right? See this handy little chart for conspiracy theorists. Look at this. This is an unbelievable list. Vaccinated can spread COVID. A year ago, it was considered a conspiracy theory. Now, truth. Vaccinated are susceptible to new variants and reinfection. Truth. Look at the list. Third and fourth shots. Truth. Was a conspiracy. Now it's a truth. Harder access to medical care for unvaccinated. Truth. Secret contracts between Pfizer and the governments. Come on, that's fake, right? That's got to be fake news. That's got to be a conspiracy theorist. You're a conspiracy theorist. Why are you anti-vax? Why are you? That's the truth. All of that has been confirmed now. So, when we
I
say,
wonder if I can get all my friends back.
Yeah,
friends and
all of the people on Facebook that were like, "How dare you say these things? This is, what are you? Why don't you go hang out with Alex Jones or something, you crazy person?"
I've not had a single person retract their threats, so I'm waiting. All of you who may have threatened me during that time.
You always find out during a crisis who your true friends are, though, right? Don't you? Anytime you're in a crisis in your life, just watch. There will be a few of those people that will fall off. They don't want to talk to you. They'll just disappear. It's like cancer.
It's like the Eric Clapton song. Nobody knows you when you're down and out, but when you're back on your feet again, everybody wants to be your long lost friend.
That's right. Yeah. So, we have a saying here on this show about conspiracy theories, right? Which is that they're just spoiler alerts for 6 months from now. So 6 months from now, because someone the other day was like, I want to share your show, and I've been trying to, but some of my friends say that it's just conspiracy theory, and I don't know. I'm like, well, share it with them, because six months later they're going to be like, wait a second, didn't Aunt Marcy send me a video of Redacted talking about this, and now it's true, it's happened? Maybe I should go back and watch that show again, because all of the lies they were spreading to us throughout the past 3 years. So we'll have more on that story. We're going to continue to follow that story. There's also some excess death numbers we're going to probably be covering on the show tomorrow. We've got a lot more news. We're going to have an update on Haiti. We're going to be looking at this new Scottish gender bill on the show tomorrow. Natali, hopefully, will be back tomorrow. She's got a double ear infection, so she's woozy and out of it. She had to take some medicine and lay down, and she's out of it. So it's feels like a vice on her head. So she did the show last night, but it was not, she woke up this morning. She's like, I'm like, you're not doing the show tonight. You got to relax. So, but she did write the newsletter. So she still is a great writer, even when she's down and out. So please subscribe to our daily newsletter. It's totally free, delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. Redacted.inc is the place to go. Just click on the left side of your screen there, which is sign up for the newsletter. And then you'll receive a welcome email from me, Clayton at redacted.inc. That's my email. And you have to click confirm. You have to verify it. And then tomorrow morning, you'll receive the newsletter first thing in the morning in your inbox, Eastern time. We try to publish around 6:30 a.m. Eastern time, so you can read it. I know we have a lot of Australian viewers, so it'll be like midnight. I don't know like when you guys get it, but we try to be accommodating whenever we can. So do we have any super chats we want to get to?
We do. We have a couple. So, John Kirkus, why give to corrupt lying politicians when I can help pay for the truth? $20 super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Diane Salt, Natali, hope you get well soon. We miss you.
I will send your love.
Jessica Mai, the rail company's conference yearly in Delaware. David Dean, the human juggernaut. I can relate to the rail workers. We bargained a contract back in 2019. They didn't even want to hear sick days. Isn't that crazy? It's like sick days. They don't want you to have a day off. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Something that's
small. But it also in a lot of cases with the rail workers, they're not allowed to take them. So it's if you get sick, they're like, well, you can take your sick days in a week or two. They're just not right now. You just can't do it right now. You can be sick. That's fine. Just not right now.
Oh my God.
This is inconvenient to our bottom line. Please don't get sick now.
Take a sick day next year. Take a sick day.
I mean,
off.
just to put it in perspective, to put it into perspective, though, Amazon even, like, because I used to work at Amazon, like, they have their blackout period for, like, taking, like, requested days off, but they never mess with your sick days. Like, even during that blackout period. So even, like, going on to Christmas, they never messed with that. They were like, you had your days off, you had your paid time off, you had your sick days. And so, like, even Amazon, who, like, you know, people peeing in bottles, they let people take their sick days. It's just mind-boggling.
Crazy.
Martin C. Food shortage was always going to be blamed on strikes.
Oh yeah, they'll blame it on the strikes, of course. Exactly. Right. Then it'll be the railway workers' fault that you don't have your cranberry sauce at Christmas or whatever. You don't have your lobster. You know.
Goran Stochovic, and I'll read one more after this. What is the difference between the U.S. government and China? Free speech and info? Like, really, do you remember? I remember, like, we would argue on social media and say, and because we could say whatever we wanted, and yet they were like blocking things in China, and we were like, wow, they're blocking what they can say in China. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And now we're in the same boat, and and those same people aren't saying a damn thing.
It's amazing to watch the left in the United States right now. I mean, they're totally fine with this. They're totally fine with the censorship. To see all of my old tech journalist friends that I would go, you know, cover different events. I would go to cover a Google event or a Microsoft event or whatever, and I you know, would cover those events.
Well, and not even so much cool with it. They're demanding it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, oh my God, you know, everyone should get off of Twitter right now and go over to this other platform. We need censorship. I'm like, what happened to these people? Like, what happened to the United States? Blocking all of this content, you're blocking voices, you're telling people that they can't speak, you're having governments colluding with big tech. I mean, we now know, once we see these Twitter files, I keep checking to see, like, has Elon released these Twitter files yet? Like, we're going to see some shit.
Okay, Barney Rebel, last one here. The Rosenau experiment blew my mind. Much love.
RC
I'm not sure
Pip,
what the Rosenau experiment.
RC Pip says, where can I find that COVID Vax effective compilation that you played? How about this? I'm going to tweet it, and here's our Twitter handle. Here's our Twitter account. Come on over to, we are the Redacted INC on Twitter. So it's the Redacted INC on Twitter is our official Twitter account. So I think we have, let's see how many people we get. We have 8,000 followers right now. Let's see. If all of you guys come over and subscribe to Twitter and follow Natalie and I on Twitter over there, where we publish a lot of good stuff. We publish links to the show and just other commentary and things, segments and long form videos. We publish some longer form videos here as well that you can watch, just little clips from the show, things like that. So come on over here. It's the Redacted INC on Twitter. So I will post that clip right here on our Twitter account for you guys if you want to watch that. A little bit later, you can do that.
Boom.
Doing it. We're doing it.
All right. That's all the, I mean, it's not all the super chats. That's all I'm going to read today.
Yeah. And I've lost my voice.
Yeah.
It's been
Don't get sick.
No, I won't. But I love doing the show.
You don't get any sick days.
No, I don't get any sick days. I don't. I love doing the show. Let me just say that I really love doing the show. I love working with David and Philip and Grim and the whole team here, Kevin, and Natali, who's not here tonight. But I love doing the show. I love what I get to do, which is, you know, I've been a journalist for 20 years, and I used to work in the mainstream media for the big boys. And someone asked me today, why did you leave working for the network? I said, because first of all, I wanted to be able to have the freedom to do what I want to do, but I love being able to do this show and bringing, you know, covering the stories that I think are important, that are being propagandized by the Western media. If we get to
when you remember when you and I first had a conversation when you were first getting ready to do this show, this would be way before Redacted, and when Morning Invest, as the show it became, the news show, was just getting started, and you had like kind of went into that territory a little bit, but being an old Fox News guy, you had a lot of people that were like, you know, on your ass about anything not conservative and all that other stuff. And so you were kind of like, you know, this is like kind of crazy. But now it's like we have such an awesome audience of people that like love this kind of content. So it's just cool to have seen the progression of where you started and where we are now, and just have such a supportive audience, and that just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, just because I want to be able to do the show that I want to be able to do a show that I want to watch. Like I wish that I had this show years ago. Like I wish there was a show like Redacted years ago that I could flip on and find out, like, what's the truth in China? Like what's actually happening? What's going on with these vaccines? What are they lying to us about? And you can't get any of that. You flip on CNN, or you can't, any of the major networks, you're not going to be able to see that. Like very few shows actually tell the truth. Otherwise, it's all corporate run media. And it's run by billionaires who are spreading propaganda. So you can't get any of that. So anyway, I wanted to be able to...
I think the only one on mainstream media that does a really good job is Wolf Blitzer.
Is Anderson Cooper. Is Don Lemon. I mean,
I was going to say Don Lemon, but I thought nobody would believe that.
I never miss an episode of Lemon. I swear. It's just like, that's how I start my day. It's how I end my night.
Have you seen his CNN Plus series, though? Oh, my gosh. He's like on a couch. Oh, wait a minute. That's right.
Yeah, I can't get that app to work. I don't know what's wrong with it. I check it every night, and it's just...
You got to call their support. You got to call their support team.
Call their support... I just get a busy signal.
No, you call their support team, and the person that answers, "Hello, this is Chris Wallace. Could I help you?" He's running the support now.
Have you guys seen my Fox friends?
Yeah. Much love to all. You never explained. Sorry, someone was saying I never explained the response. What did you mean? Sorry, Chris Comento says you never explained Russia's response to the attack on the oil fields.
Have they officially made one yet?
I didn't see. I mean, you mean as far as like a military response? I'm not sure.
Well, just a Putin response.
I mean, they've been responding,
or a Moscow response.
They've been threatening. These continuous attacks on the Belgrade area and these other areas are going to result in devastation. So it's coming. Like, we're going to see a massive onslaught here because Biden's not relenting. They're going to continue to send these weapons to Ukraine, and it's going to be an all-out, massive war in the next few weeks. So the winter offensive has not even started yet. It's just waiting for the ground to freeze, and all hell is going to break loose. So thank you, guys. All right, I'll get out of here. I'll let you guys get to bed, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed and turn on that little bell notification. Don't let YouTube screw us over by hiding these notifications and hiding what we do on this channel. Thank you to all of our folks over on Rumble. Much love to all of you right now, and good to see you guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Bye, everyone.
Are you worried about